Welcome back to the Nick and Artie Show. 800-546-7663 is the phone number. Artie, we've been waiting this for a long time.
It's my favorite guest of all time.
Probably. We look,
really
I
is.
grew up in Boston, and I'm 50 years old, so I was following the Bruins closely from 69 to right through the 80s.
Much respect to this guy. Much respect.
The best broadcaster in sports in North America, is my opinion. Please welcome Don Cherry. Don, how are you?
Don,
I'm
don't go
humbled.
out.
I'm humbled.
I'm telling you. Coach, I was, like I said, I followed the Bruins. I was in my teens, and from 1975 to 79, when you were the coach, and the most heartbreaking loss in all of Boston sports for me, even worse than Yankees-Red Sox, was that Game 7 up in Montreal. Was it 1979?
Yeah, that was my last year. Artie, that was a tough. They don't get any tougher than that one, I'll tell you. We were a minute and 43 from the Stanley Cup because we were going to play the New York Rangers the next round, and we owned them. I don't think we lost a game to them. Montreal.
That's right.
4 out of 5. It was going to be a piece of cake. I had it all counted out, and then I couldn't count. But it's funny, how the coach always gets blamed for that. Yeah, he says, "Now look, you guys jump out and get too many men on the ice." But that's the way. That's funny when they do that with too many men.
Hey, Coach, who was it? Was it Greg Shepard? Who was the guy that was,
I can't
was the extra guy?
I can't. We made it back. I can't say. I'll tell you.
See, that's a good man. That's a good man. He's not giving him up.
I'll tell you what happened there is that Scotty Bowman was triple shipped in Guy Lafleur, eh? And Donnie Marcotte, and he had orders as long as Guy Lafleur was on, Donnie Marcotte was on. So usually a guy doesn't go 3 shifts in a row. And that's what happened. He went 3 shifts in a row, and one of our left wingers got mixed up, and they both jumped on. And if I hadn't run down, there would have been 9 guys on there, I think. But it was a heartbreaker, I'll tell you, boy. I couldn't. I had to stand outside the dressing room on an egg crate for about 15 minutes before the guys get there. There was a lot of guys balling in there, I'll tell you.
Oh, my God. I was crying at home, me and my brother. It wasn't Bobby Schmatz, was it?
No, I can't say that. He was a right winger, by the way. You keep
that's
going
right,
through
Schmatz.
the teams, you're going to get them.
Hey, Don, thanks so much for coming on. This is Artie. I'm actually from Jersey. I'm from outside of New York. That was Nick. He's a Boston guy. We were a big fan of you, and I want to ask you this: you're a good man, you're a solid guy. What about this world? This world that is becoming so uptight and sensitive, and it's reflected in hockey. What irks you about this generation? We can't stand it.
Well, I'll tell you, it's a funny thing that the hockey the way it is now, and it's entertaining hockey. Don't get me wrong; I'm not going to be one of those guys that knock hockey, but the one thing I was talking the other day was funny. I was sitting, it was the last game, and I was saying, the one thing when we were playing, we never showed pain. That was a big thing. Like baseball players, you know how they get zinged on a 95? They'll go to first base. They won't rub that arm for nothing. And that's the way we used to be. And now the guys get hit in the mouth. They're trying to squeeze the blood out, and guys get nailed. It looks like they get shot or something. They go down. Look like soccer players. That's the one big thing I see is different. That the diving and that. And everybody says, well, Billy Barber did it. Yeah, there was one guy, Billy Barber, and he was a joke. But that's the one thing that bothers me when I see them falling down like they've been shot with a sniper.
Speaking of Billy Barber, which he was one of the Broadway bullies, I still say that team you had, who was tougher than Stan Jonathan? Was there anybody ever tougher on skates as far as fighting goes?
Yeah, you remember that fight with Pierre Bouchard? I mean, that was, Nick, you remember that?
I got a picture of my office, Coach. I got a picture of my office of that fight.
I even know that one.
Yeah.
Jeez, I'll tell you, it was a bloodbath. He broke his nose, broke his cheekbone. It was 60 stitches inside his mouth. I mean, it was all over the John D'Amico. I mean, it looked like a slaughter. And they asked him after. He said, "Do you think you'll ever play again in the National Hockey?" He said, "Yeah, if I take up the organ." But anyhow, we had. I thought I'd get you guys on that one, but listen, Dave the Hammer Schultz wrote a book called The Hammer, and he was a pretty tough guy, let me tell you. And in the book, he says, I could not sleep before going into the night before going into the Boston Gardens. He says, we had 5 tough guys, but they had 5 guys that were psycho. And I mean, they were bullies, and most bullies, you know what bullies are. So I'd have to say we had the toughest team in sports.
Absolutely. I used to we're talking to Don Cherry, by the way, great former coach of the Bruins and CBC commentator. Me and my brother would take the train into Boston. We were only in our teens. And
sounds like a lot of fun to me.
Every time the Flyers came to town. And, I mean, John Wensink. Anybody remember John Wensink?
Remember with he almost choked him to death. And in Minnesota, he went over and challenged the whole bench. Harry was very upset over that one. Harry really wasn't caring. He wasn't too thrilled with our club, but we just kept on winning all the time. But he wasn't too thrilled with our club. He used to say this is not a good image for the Bruins. I remember he used to say, "Yeah, we just keep winning." But we couldn't. What happened with Montreal is that the one thing about going playing these guys, they lost 8 games all year, 1 at home, and we were the ones that beat them at home, and we beat them 3 out of 5. We played them 5 times, but when you get in a 7-game series with them, they had so many guys that were. I mean, their first line was Steve Shuddy had 62 goals. Lemaire had 35 goals, and Lafleur on the other side had 52 goals. There's not a line in hockey that was ever like that. So they just keep rolling the lines.
You know what I love about hockey, listening to you two guys talk, and you two guys have gotten me more into hockey in the last few years than anybody, but hockey names are the best ever because they sound like a bunch of guys who grew up in the gutter in the Bowery in New York City, across the table from a bunch of upper-class Frenchmen. It's like Bobby Schmatz and Guy Lafleur.
Yeah, I never thought of that. Yeah. Or Guy Lapointe.
Guy Lapointe.
Right, it sounds like...
Pierre Mondoux.
Right,
Andre
Guy Mondoux.
And we got Stan Jonathan, Tuscarora.
Think about it, guys. It's like Guy Lombard, whatever it is, and then you got Bobby Clark.
Yeah, and the tough guys' names were they sounded tough. Like, remember
Hoya? How about John Wensink? I mean, that sounded like he was. They used to call him Wire. He had hair. He had a Fu Manchu. He used to scare me. I'll tell you. But if you went to a bar with him, boy, you had no trouble.
Well, I remember hearing a story before he came up that he bit a guy's ear off in junior hockey. That was the big thing in the paper.
It was a little love nip on the end, but I'll tell you, funny story was in Buffalo. It's a true story. We were playing an exhibition game, and he got into a fight with a guy of all guys, Rod Sealing. I remember, and he bit him 3 times on the back, And it's true, he had to go for tetanus shots and the whole deal and everything. So Dick Johnson of the Buffalo Courier come up to me and he says, "What do you think, Cherry, of John Wensink biting Rod Steele?" I said, "That's what I like, hungry hockey players."
No, well, Mike Tyson took that to the...
Got $2,000 on that one. Bad image for hockey.
I was going to say, Don, Mike Tyson took that to the next level. He bit the whole ear off.
Oh, yeah, that was a good one. I like Mike. That was a good one. You're going to do it.
Yeah, really, don't go half-ass with something.
Wensink was full.